to the show, Elise. We are so excited for all things Champagne. It is amazing to have you. And are you in Champagne, France, as we speak?
Yes, in the house Les Aulnois, so it's the center of the house of Henriot in front of the vineyard.
Love that. Well, the background looks amazing, and it's so great that, we can talk to you here. I'm in Maryland, just so you know, just a state over from where we met in DC. And I have several of your champagnes here. But before we kind of get into tasting anything, I love, all the history around your champagne house, and a lot of strong females were responsible for these great wines. So if you want to just kind of give us a little history background, I know it's too broad to go over all of it, but some highlights, that would be great.
Yeah, first, the House of Henriot is a very historical house because we were born in 1808. And this house was founded by a woman, Apolline Henriot. You know that in Champagne area, the presence of female is very, very important. A lot of houses were founded by women, so it was the case for the House of Henriot. And what I really enjoy is that Apolline Henriot was a grower before the foundation of the house. That means she had the feet in the ground. She loved the viticulture. She made viticulture. So the beginning was really a passion for a vineyard and a desire to shine a light on a specific vineyard.
Love that. And you do it so differently in each of these wines that we're going to taste. But if people, let's say, are just coming to this, of course, the three main grapes of Champagne are Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, and Pinot Meunier. And you use them like a recipe. How do you decide? I know there are special styles where you only use white grapes or you only use red, but what is the sort of house style? Do you like more red fruit? Do you like more white fruit? Where do you stand on that?
Yeah. In fact, we respect the story. The beginning of the House of Henriot was in the north of the vineyard of Champagne, in a sector named Montagne de Reims. It's a sector very famous for the Pinot Noir. So the beginning of the house, when Apolline Henriot founded the house, was in a sector of Pinot Noir. But in 1880, there was a big transition in the vineyard of Henriot because the fourth generation of the Henriot family got married with a girl from another sector, more in the south, in Côte des Blancs. It's a famous sector for Chardonnay. That means in 1880, the vineyard that was uniquely planted in Pinot Noir, uniquely from the north of the vineyard, became in majority planted in Chardonnay, in majority from the south part of the vineyard with Côte des Blancs. Since 1880, we respect that. I mean, we developed the vineyard, of course. We have 29 different crus in our vineyard today, but we are in majority in Montagne de Reims and Côte des Blancs, and we have a majority of Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. The Chardonnay is major, followed very closely by the Pinot Noir. It's 50% of Chardonnay, 45% of Pinot Noir, and 5% of Meunier, because more recently, 30 years ago, we decided to go in conquest of other crus planted in Meunier, because we think it's important to have a certain curiosity first for all the grapes variety we can find in Champagne area. Furthermore, with climate change, we need to adapt ourselves and know everything about all the grape varieties we have at our disposal in the AOC Champagne. And we consider it's a very nice grape variety because it contributes to other diversity of aromas. And the objective of Henriot is to make champagne with a lot of generosity, with a lot of different nuances and diversity of aromas, because we want to make alive wines, We want to give emotions, a lot of pleasure, so many facets of personality in the wines.
Love that. And each, just like people each bring something to the table. And you mentioned you have 29 different crus or vineyards across all these different grapes. And I believe I was reading in the Brut, you use all 29 crus. And that was, I believe, the first champagne we were going to talk about. So tell me a little bit more. People don't realize, I think, that you're blending not only all these different vineyards, but also with a non-vintage champagne like the first two, you're also blending many different years together to kind of get the taste of your house. So tell me about how that's done, because it sounds like a very complicated blending process.
Yeah. In fact, the DNA of Champagne area is blending exercise. We like that. We can blend different parts of the vineyards. We can blend different years in order to create a champagne that has the personality we want to give. For Henriot, in 1808, with the foundation of the house by Apolline, we decided to create a champagne that respected this specific savoir-faire or know-how from Champagne area, the traditional craftsmanship of Champagne area. So Apolline Henriot created a champagne made by blend of the different crus she had, because at the beginning of the house, we had 3 different crus. A cru is a part of the vineyard. In general, it has the name of the village that is inside the vineyard, and it's a location with a specific terroir, with specific exposition to the sun, specific soils, etc. Inside the different crus, of course, we have different patch of vines with different personalities. But we know that each cru gives a certain personality and character. So the fact to have diversity of cru permit to have diversity of wines and permit to be able to do blends with different nuances. For Apolline Henriot, it was really important to respect that and to represent a whole vineyard. So that's why she decided to make a champagne made by blend with all the crus she had. Today, we respect that with the Henriot Brut Souverain. This is the first creation of Apolline Henriot. We respect this philosophy to have all the crus we have in our vineyards. Yes. I mean, every year we craft a new blend of Henriot Brut Souverain. And in fact, we select at least in every wines we obtain from the last harvest, we select at least 1 wine per cru from this harvest. And then we complete the palette of wines by others wines from those same cru in order to have more large palette of aromas, to be sure to express all the facets of personality we have. Because in a cru, we have different plots of vine and we can have nuances. When we have, for example, 2 different characters, we will select those 2 different characters in the Henriot Brut Souverain. And then, because we are able to blend different years in the blend, and this is exactly what Apolline Henriot wanted, we have reserve wine. Reserve wine are wines that we keep in stainless steel tank in our cellar that are from past harvest. The objective to that is to have others aromas, others personality. We cannot have in only one harvest. Because in one harvest, we have a certain influence of the year, of the vintage. We have an influence of the weather on the profile of the wines. For example, if you take a year very warm, very dry, sometimes you have profile with mature fruit, you have strong profile, you have low acidity. And if you want to express all the facets of personality of your vineyard, you have to take reserve wine with more acidity, with more citrus profile, etc., in order to have a lot of nuances, a lot of contrast in your blend. This is exactly what Apolline Henriot wanted. So we have in Henriot Brut Souverain many years. The oldest wine is from 1969. The youngest wine in the bottle that are in the market now are from 18. So you imagine you have every harvest from 69 to 2018. It's crazy. But this is the way to deliver a champagne with generosity, with powerful, but in the same times with elegance, with mature fruit, but with citrus, with many contrasts. And to have wine with a certain alive profile. More you do the tasting, more you wait, more the wine is open, more you feel new aromas. This is exactly what we want to have.
Yes. Well, definitely with this, it's got so much power and intensity to it, the Brut, I feel like, and such a long finish, meaning you just keep tasting it. A lot of times I was taught to count. How long do you keep tasting the wine after you take the sip, and kind of, evaluating if it's a long finish or not. I know with the Brut and the Blanc de Blanc, you're aging these for about minimum of 3 years before release, which I guess is why you're saying 2018, I guess, would be the newest of the years that's in this bottle. But what do you look for when you're tasting your Brut champagne?
We really want to have something with complexity, generosity. When I say generosity, I mean many aromas different, many notes different. We want to have many things that happens and play together. We want to have generosity,
Okay.
but not something that is too much expressive, because we are very attached to have a certain distinction and elegance. That's why we really pay attention to not have too much type of wine, expressive, strong, massive. We always balance with wines with more elegance, etc. So this is the first point. And then we like to have vivacity and freshness because we consider this is the backbone of every champagne we craft at Henriot, and it's really important. That's why during the harvest, we really pay attention to taste the grapes every day in order to select the best dates of harvest, to be exactly on the objective, to have beautiful fruit, but not too mature, not green aromas, and to be exactly at the good point with a lot of freshness and expression and emotions. We really want to feel that. So if we summarize, I think Brut Souverain is about generosity, distinction, and freshness. The time is something very important too. We have the notion of terroir, all the crus we have define the profile of our champagne, of course, because the raw material is the best condition to have quality. If you have good grapes, good terroir, you will have good wine. And we need to be sure to do the harvest at the good moment. We need to taste all the wines. We need to not have recipe. We don't have recipe. You talked about recipe before, to know the proportion of grapes, etc. For us, there is no recipe. There is just a philosophy to tell the whole vineyard we have through all the crus we have. But the selection of the wines is only due to the tasting because the objective is to take pleasure, give pleasure, and make great wines. So we cannot
Okay.
do it without feelings, emotional tasting. So that's why the decision are due to the tasting. And then we need to be patient. We need to take time to do things. We have very seasonal process. We have long process. You see, the youngest wine of Brut Souverain in the market is based on 2018. We are in 2024. So we need around 6 years to compose a new creation of Brut Souverain. It's very long because it's always the same seasons. We do the harvest at the middle of September. We do the winemaking process with alcoholic fermentation, malolactic fermentation, and then we begin the tasting. We do the tasting during 4-5 months, and then we think to the blends, and we do different creation, different version of blends. We do it in laboratory, we taste, and when we are convinced by a version, we decide to bottle it. We do the real blend in the winery, and then we bottle the blends in June and July. So it's always the same philosophy. In June and July, when we do the bottling, after the bottles go in the cellar and sleep during few years, waiting the time to be disgorged a few years after, and the time to be in the market. So yeah, it's a long process. And then at the step is the tasting that decides again.
Ah, nice. A lot of tasting. So no recipe, more like I think I might have mentioned when we met, my husband is a chef and he rarely would cook by a recipe. It's more of a taste and the different components. So it sounds like that's what you're doing every year in figuring out, what's going to go into each of your blends of wines. Does that
Yeah.
sound about right?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
All
Every
right.
year it's a
Yeah.
new white paper. We
Well,
need to recreate something.
yeah, that makes it exciting, I bet, because you just don't know what's coming your way. But the next wine you sent for me to explore and for us to discuss is the Blanc de Blanc, which of course means white from whites. And the white grape of Champagne is Chardonnay. And we know through marriage, Chardonnay became a big part of your house. And so tell me about making a Blanc de Blanc I know obviously less crus that what go into the Brut, but tell me a little bit about what your vision for this wine is.
The vision is from 1880. You remember in 1880, the fourth generation of the Henriot family got married with a girl who was a grower. This girl was named Marie Marguet, and she had a vineyard located in Côte des Blancs, planted in Chardonnay in three different crus: Avise, Ménil-sur-Oger, and Chouilly. And it was a big transition for the vineyard of Henriot because Chardonnay was a new grape variety in the vineyard, because Côte des Blancs was a new sector in the vineyard. And the life of Henriot is that we create a champagne when there is a transition of vineyards. This is exactly what we did. We decided to pay tribute to this new vineyard, to this new grape variety, creating a champagne that was Henriot Blanc de Blanc. In 1880, it was named Henriot Blanc Souverain, like the Brut Souverain, because it was the same philosophy than Brut Souverain. I mean, it's a blend. It's a blend of years. It's a blend of cru, and the objective is to represent the whole vineyards of Henriot, but planted in Chardonnay uniquely. So we have 12 different cru in our vineyard today. So you have 12 different cru in your blends, in your glass. This is a fantastic Blanc de Blanc because I think there is not just one profile of Chardonnay. Sometimes we have the question, oh, do you think it's more Chardonnay? Or then you have a Chardonnay style. Okay, but there is the same quantity of Chardonnay than terroir, than plots of vine. For example, we have terroir in the north of Montagne de Reims, in Chardonnay. For example, the village of Trépaille. It's a terroir very rough. You have a very timid profile, strong profile, but closed. It's with a lot of relief. It's very acid. You have something sizzled in the mouth, but it's quite close. It doesn't want to deliver everything now. It's okay. I don't want to leave my jacket now, so please let me. And if you compare with another Chardonnay, for example, in the north of Côte des Blancs, in Chouilly, you'll have a profile more generous with a lot of exotism, with pineapple, with rum vanilla. It's completely different profiles. Like, okay, come at home. I will open my home and I will receive you. I will offer rum vanilla. It's generous. We are in a warm area. So you feel the personality is very different. With the Henriot Blanc de Blanc, we want to make a blend that express all the characters we have at our disposal in our vineyard. So that's why it's a Blanc de Blanc very interesting, because it's complex, because you have the rough profile of Trépaille, but you have exotism and generosity of Chouilly. You have the velvet sensation in the mouth of Avenay. You have the laser and the acidity of Avise. So you have many notes different, many personalities of Chardonnay. And that gives birth to a Blanc de Blanc that is not just mineral. It's not just mineral like we could think for Blanc de Blanc. No, it's more toasty, it's smoky, and mineral. So I like that.
Right.
And here it's the actual base in the market is 2017. Yeah.
It's a really beautiful. I know a lot of people will say, "Oh, Blanc de Blanc is going to be very muted or lean and just elegant," but there's a lot to this, like you said, with the toastiness but also that mineral citrusy thing that you come to expect. So that is just fascinating how you're only using one grape because of so many different plots and so many different expressions of Chardonnay, along with the expressions of every single year. I don't even think we could create a computer program to figure that all out. I don't think AI is going to replace you in the blending room. Let's just put it that way.
No.
Wonderful. And then I know we spoke when I met you in DC about glassware. And so
Yes.
this is kind of a traditional flute that a lot of us associate with drinking champagne. But a few years ago, I invested in these glasses after, just reading and learning more about the ability to get more aromas and flavor out of champagne in a wider bowl. Is this what you would recommend as far as a champagne glass, and why?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, in fact, traditionally, that's true. We had different types of wine. We see the coupe like this, and then we have the flute like this. And it's really beautiful because it's sort of symbol, and I think it's important to see it in the future because it's symbol and tradition. But to appreciate a wine, a champagne, to be sure to have the nose and the mouth, it's important to have an adapted glass. And with coupe or flute, unfortunately, you lose the aromas, you lose the nose parts of the tasting. It's 50% of the tasting, it's by the nose. In fact, when you have a flute, for example, everything goes outside. Every aromas go outside, so you cannot keep the aromas to smell. It's not enough to smell everything about the wine. So that's why we prefer to have something more large, but a little bit close to preserve and keep all the aromas. The fact to have something quite large permit to have a surface of oxygen and the contact between oxygen and wine and to reveal the aromas. But we need to close a little bit at the top of the glass to keep that inside the glass. And then there is something important in champagne. It's sparkling. It's the bubbles. The bubbles are very key for the perception of the aromas and the flavors because it's composed by carbonic dioxide first. So in the mouth, you have a perception of this carbonic dioxide that gives another dimension to the tasting to compare with still wine. And then when the bubbles go in the surface, they explode and they deliver aromas. So it's very important to consider that. And the trajectory, the long trajectory of the bubble give how can I say that? Make the bubble big or small. The fact to have bubble big or small contribute to another perception in the mouth of the sparkling. So the type of glass you use is very important. If you have a flute, the glass like this, flute, you have a very long time of evolution of the bubbles. So you will feel in your mouth big bubbles. If you want to have more finesse, it's important to have less long time of evolution of the bubbles, So many things are important for the tasting. Indeed, today, to appreciate wine, it's better to have white wine glass, for example. The Burgundy wine glass are very adapted for champagne if you don't have the specific champagne glasses, because champagne glasses now are more like Burgundy wine glass, but a little bit more closed at the top and with a certain triangular way at the beginning of the glass. So
I thought this one is actually a white wine glass for the Hemera, our last wine that we were going to try. That's actually just a white wine glass. These two are the Reidel Extreme Champagne and Rosé. So I like them both. Well, great. So I know we have one vintage champagne here in the mix, meaning that all of the grapes are harvested and made from grapes in that 1 year. And you all sent me a 2008. And so, but this is a very special cuvee, I know, for you there. And I'd love for you to tell people all about it.
Yeah. It's another historical cuvee of our collection. Every cuvee are very historical. Sorry for that. It was from 1889. The first creation was in 1889 when we went in conquest of new cru. In fact, until 1889, we had only 6 different cru in our vineyard. The 3 cru from the foundation of the house, from Henriot, Verzy, Verzenay and Maille-Champagne in Pinot Noir from Montagne de Reims. The 3 cru that joined the vineyard in 1880 with Avis, Mény-sur-Oger and Chouilly in Chardonnay from Côte des Blancs. And in 1889, we went in conquest of new cru in Montagne de Reims and Côte des Blancs, in Pinot Noir and Chardonnay, in Trépaille, in Auger and Cramant. But when there is a transition in our vineyard, we pay tribute to it, creating a champagne. And we decided to pay tribute to the historical cru. The cru we consider the foundation of the vineyard of Henriot. So those 6 founding cru, the 3 of Apolline and the 3 of 1880. We decided to do it with a recipe. I told you there is no recipe at Henriot, but it's not really true because there is one creation that respects a recipe. This is Hemera, this Cuvee. I'm sorry. In fact, we decided to make a blend with equal parts in the blend in terms of volume of each cru, to be sure to give the same voice to each cru in the blends. But this is a vintage. So from a creation to another, if the terroirs are exactly the same, if the recipe is exactly the same, the story of the year is different. So when you do a vertical of this cuvée, it's really amazing because you compare exactly the same thing with the influence of the year. Here you have a mythic vintage in Champagne area, that is 2008. 2008 was a very classic year, but classic doesn't want to mean boring. It means classic, expected in Champagne area, and we really want to have this weather every year because it gives birth to well balance between expression, charisma, and freshness, elegance. You have powerful, you have strong profile, but it's really balanced by a year that close a little bit the big character. So it's well balanced. It's really, really beautiful. And you have exactly the same proportion between Pinot Noir and Chardonnay because it's 3 cru in Pinot Noir, 3 cru in Chardonnay, equal parts in the blend. But you have an influence of the year that gives a certain hierarchy to the profile, you know? It's same for the cru. I think in '08, the cru that are major in terms of expression are like Verzenay. Verzenay is about elegance, dentelle, finesse, and you feel Ménis-Roger that is more about shining. You can feel Avis too that is about laser freshness. And I think in the second time you can feel the others. My Champagne is very strong character. It's like a rugbyman. I think he is more timid now. And then Verzy, it's more the structure, like the foundation of a building, you know, it's very solid. I think it's in a second time. We feel it's solid, but more by charisma than foundation of a building. And Chouilly, that is about exotism, pineapple, velvet sensation in the mouth. Same, I think it's more timid today. But with the aging, sometimes there is like a reorganization of the hierarchy between the cru in terms of expression. So let's see in 10 years, maybe.
Yeah, and you did age this, did I see, for 10 years at least before release, correct?
Yes. In fact, it was created in 2009 because the harvest was in '08. We did the blend and the bottling in '09. So it was on yeast until 3 years ago, 2 years ago. So it depends on the date of disgorgement, but we always disgorge the bottle at least 1 year before the tasting. And now the bottle you have was disgorged 2 years ago. So you see it was on years between '09 to 2022. So it's a very long aging. We need time. In fact, we do tasting very often of the bottles we have in the cellar. And we follow the wine, we listen to the wines. And when we feel, oh, it begins to say, hello, we follow the wine more often. Maybe we will taste the wine every 6 months. Before it was every year. So every 6 months we taste it. And when you say hello with more noise, you know, we taste it every 3 months. And when it's more and more, every month. And when we consider it's ready, we disgorge it. After disgorgement, we taste every month. And when we consider it's well balanced, because disgorgement is the moment where we switch out the yeast that are in the bottle and we do the dosage. This step is very short. It's the end of the process. It's just a few seconds in the life of the bottle. But the fact to open a bottle that was on yeast during many years, it's quite violent for the wine because you take a breath, you meet the oxygen for the first time, and you need time to be well balanced after that. You need to sleep a little bit to be organized and balanced. So that's why we always try to have long time of aging after disgorgement, at least 1 year.
This sounds like a great job because there's a lot of tasting going on. I mean, every 6 months,
Yeah.
every 3 months, every month to make sure that it's perfectly ready. This is stunning. And I was holding this up to show just the difference in the color, how much more color the vintage seems to have from the Blanc de Blanc, a little more golden on. And do you believe that's from the aging? Because this is such an aged wine, or is there another reason, do you feel?
In fact, there are many reasons, and we cannot give all the answer. There is a part of magic that we cannot explain because, in general, Chardonnay are more light in color to compare with Pinot Noir. Pinot Noir you can have reflect more dark, more red than Chardonnay that is always white. But it depends on the raw material. It depends on the aging. The aging gives more gold color in general, but sometimes we are very surprised by the color of very old vintages. Sometimes the old vintages have very light color. So I don't know. There are many, many elements that can explain that. But of course, you have more chance to have gold color with time and darker color with time. Yeah, there is a part of magic of that. Fortunately,
And
we don't have
these are
the
all
answer
three
for everything.
beautiful. One of the things, oh, I love the magic.
Yeah.
And I love that this vintage comes in a gift box. So I know we're in the holidays time. Certainly, all of these are great to celebrate holidays or New Year's, but the vintage, the Hemera, is such a great gift, and the presentation is just
Yeah.
wonderful. This is truly, if you are celebrating something amazing or just celebrating every day, this wine is definitely the finale. One last question, because I know we've taken a lot of your time already, but this is so fascinating. So you had touched on a little bit in the tasting I attended about climate change and how that is. Just what are your thoughts on how that's affecting champagne making and anything you might be doing differently now that you're noticing the effects?
The climate change is really the biggest challenge we have now because we need to work to reduce our impact on the environment in order to reduce the climate change. And we need to adapt ourselves to the climate change that is really, really strange. And today we have more extremes in terms of weather in the vineyard. We have higher temperature. We have more extremes. For example, 2024, we had rain and rain and rain. We had no sun. We had record of rain, of humidity. We had record of low quantity of sun. So, and sometimes we have warm and dry weather all the year with record of high temperature. So more extremes in general. That means every year it's a new white paper and we need to reinvent our viticulture. I think the key is to be more present in the vineyard, to observe a lot. You mentioned the AI for the wine and said the AI will not do the blend for us. That's true. But the AI is very, very good to have indicators to make more analysis on our vineyard. And at Henriot, we use a lot the AI because it permits to have very precise analysis to be an help for our choices of viticulture. Because now we see that we need to take more priority because we want to be better for the environment. For example, today in the Vineyard of Henriot, we are in organic viticulture. So that means no synthesis product. That means we need to go more often in the vineyard. So for the carbon impact, we need to find solution because it's not better. So to be better in terms of carbon impact, we need to do priority. If the vineyard doesn't need treatment, work of soil, etc., we don't do it. And thanks to the AI, we arrived to have cartography of different indicators that permit to take the good decision and to not go in the vineyard if it's not necessary for many things, for the quantity of organic material, for the treatment, for the work on the soil, if we need to cut the grass or not, to compare with the vigor of the vineyard, etc. So we do many things like that. And this is part of a project that we created in 2020. When I joined the house, we decided to create a big project about quality, environment, and climate change, of course. And we have this project that is composed by 3 pillars. The first is about the knowledge about the vineyard and our terroir. So we do a lot of analysis with AI and with just vision and etc. A lot of analysis on soil, hydric status, potential of photosynthesis, pressure of diseases, etc. To answer to the second pillar that is about precise viticulture, you know that we need to have the same quantity of itinerary of viticulture than plots of vine. And the third pillar is about our contribution on the perennity of the vineyard. So we do many, many positive action in order to be better with the environment, to be better and to be positive. I mean, we work on the biodiversity. We try to have more electric material in our vineyards. We use AI. We are in organic viticulture. We are in HVE. We are in VDC. So many things we do, and we do it collectively, of course. Everything we do, we don't do it individually. We always share with the appellation, with the CIVC, the Champagne Committee, with the growers in the vineyard, with the other houses, because we need to be collective. Because it's for everybody we do it.
Lovely. Awesome. Well, it sounds like between blending and really staving off, climate change and dealing with all that, you have your hands full there in Champagne. But this has been so amazingly informative. Elise, thank you so much for joining us and sharing these 3 wines, which I know people will be able to find here all over the U.S. for the holidays and for New Year's, or just any day, because Champagne is great any day. It doesn't have to be the holidays, at least in my opinion. And I think you probably agree. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you very much. It was a big pleasure. Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Yeah, cheers.